Hello everyone. In this video I want to talk about the problem of divine hiddenness. Now, I want to first off say that the biggest mistake I think a lot of Christians make is, well, it's one thing, but it leads to another thing, which is the real problem. So first of all, the main mistake that a lot of Christians make is they think they can read into the heart of another individual. They think they can discern what that person is thinking or feeling or uh, understanding about the world, all this sort of thing. And that's a real problem because it leads to an us versus them mentality. Let me try to explain this a little bit. So you have Christians that say, well, you actually know God exists, but you pretend like you don't. Okay, so if this isn't apparent by the way I'm saying that, there's something wrong, because it should be understood that someone doesn't necessarily have the same revelation that you might have about things. And this is where I think presuppositionalists go wrong, is that they assume everyone really knows what the truth is, and they're just denying it. Why this is a problem is because it doesn't value the atheist on an equal playing field as the Christian. It sort of says, well, you're somehow more deprived, more depraved than I am because you don't believe and I do believe. And I have somehow come to the truth and you are in darkness, so therefore your sinful nature has taken hold of you and you're evil. I mean, this is sort of the message that atheists are receiving. And I just wonder if there's a way to sort of bridge the gap here. Because this presupposition that it's an us versus them thing is just inherently flawed. And I really want to be able to come to a place where we can speak as Christians to non-believers about the hope that is within us, and more than that, to share the hope that is in us with gentleness and respect. And this is what I think is largely just enormously undercut in apologetics. And this, I would even say it's this way not just for the presuppositional apologists, but the evidential based apologetics as well. Because they assume that the atheist is in some sense inherently flawed to the point that they don't have reasoning capabilities. In evidentialist apologetics, there's always this presupposition that, well, you're just rejecting the evidence. Okay, so what happens if you have, all you need is one person in the world that's like this, and then it fails. So that would be one person in the world who sees the evidence and they say, I'm not convinced. And if they're legitimately not convinced, how do you hold that against them? And I think this is where, there's an important thing about being a seeker. And I think there's a lot of Christians who are biased into believing what they believe. And I might even be one of them. I'm not even trying to detract from that. That's saying that, I might somehow be biased to believe what I believe. And I see that as a very real possibility for me. That I might be, my chemical makeup of my brain might be wired so that I'm biased a certain way to where I'm a Christian? And if you don't wrestle with that question, you're not really doing your due diligence to represent the truthfulness of the claims that you're making about Christianity. And so in this problem of divine hiddenness, I find that there are atheists out there who legitimately just don't, the way they might say it is, I don't buy it. It's like, it's not necessarily that they're lying or that they're being disingenuous in some way, but they legitimately, it's an intellectual thing for them, and they can't, in some sense, what I might say as derive the belief in God. All right, so it can't be logically written out on paper. Here's the reason why you don't believe, or here's the reason why I don't believe, or here's the reason why I'm unsure. It's just, I think Christians would do a whole lot better if they learned this lesson of sharing the hope that is within them with gentleness and respect. I recently had someone on my channel comment in one of the later videos that I've made saying, I'm open to the idea, but you got to show me more than words. And I'm like I'm not, when it comes to the point that you can't argue someone into being a Christian, you can't argue someone into the kingdom. It's kind of like people are going to have their reservations about things. And I think it's, this is not saying it rightly, but it's impolite to dismiss their reservations and to say, no, you actually believe. And here, let me show you. Here's 5 reasons why you should believe. I think this is a mistake. I think rather than being so concerned with convincing someone of something, I think we would do well to try instead as Christians to be loving towards people. And this is where, it gets sticky, because there's the whole sexuality thing that is at odds with Christianity, and people are going, you're a bigot, and on the other side, Christians are going, yeah, but this is what it says in the Bible. And so these are things that are not easily parsed out. As far as what I've seen, there's not a super clear-cut thing in the New Testament that says, about transgender, at least, that transgenderism is wrong. The Christian answer is to say, male and female, he created them, right? That's the passage that they go to, male and female, he created them. But if there's a original sin that is underlying the very foundations of prominent thought in humanity, it's kind of, you're not addressing the right issue when you say, well, just point to the Bible verse. Here, look, you're wrong. I mean, I think this is not a good response. It's cool to be full of gusto and just telling people they're wrong. A lot of people like to do this, especially on the internet. They love to tell people that they're wrong. But here's an alternate approach that I might say. So the first thing is love other people. And if it doesn't lead to them being saved, you don't just say, well, I don't care about you now because you don't believe. Love people regardless of whether or not they're a Christian. I think that's something that Christians can do that will end up having a better impact on the culture. Personally, I think that. So let me put it to you this way. I really think that Christianity would be better off if more people focused on loving people over evangelism. I know that sounds contrary to some people, and I got to get the message out, and I got to try and tell people about Jesus. But I think if, especially on social media, I think if people were more concerned about loving their neighbor than they were about tearing down this person or that person, or trying to disprove somebody's theory on something. But I think if the problem is original sin, and the problem is that people actually do feel like they've considered it and it's not convincing to them, if they're an honest seeker and they don't come to the same conclusion that you do, we're left with, what do you do with that? And that's where I would say, I just want to keep pounding on this. This is where I would say, just love people. Spreading the truth of the gospel is great and all, but Christ said, you will know them by their love for each other. And so loving your neighbor is like paramount to being a Christian. And there's so many commands that Paul gives, and that John gives, and that James gives, and all these things that talk about how we're not doing Christianity any good if we go out and we be an evangelist, but then we don't measure up that same amount of vigor with the love we have towards them. So with this issue of transgender and homosexuality and things like that, meet people where they're at. In your personal lives. I don't know anyone on a personal level right now who is homosexual. I've had people in the past that I've engaged with who are homosexual, and we had no problems. We had no problems whatsoever, because I didn't come out and say, you're evil, you need to change, you need to do this and that. I think the point that I want to make here is, again, just to reiterate, focus on loving people rather than evangelism. When people see that Christians are loving people, that will convince them. Then people will say, you know what, there's something about Christianity that's true, because I see the way these Christians treat people, and it's really good. They're really good to people. That's what we want. So, it's not presuppositionalist, it's not evidentialist, it's love. That's the greatest tool, that's the greatest evangelistic tool that we have at our disposal, is to love people. Well guys, thanks for watching. This has been a little bit longer video. Talk to you later. Bye.